We're a week away from Christmas and there's games still launching? Happy December. What up, viewers? What up, what up? Calc Soups here, and today is Friday, December 16th, and that means it's time for a quick recap of the week in video game news. Pardon me while I'm currently getting over a case of the Rona, and I'm trying to keep my voice a little low so I don't agitate my throat, but still wanted to give you the news, so let's hop right into it. Like I said, there's a new game coming out, or it came out this week. High on Life. I got to play a couple hours of High on Life this week. It is the latest game from Squanch Games by the developer, by Justin Roiland, the mind behind Solar Opposites and Rick and Morty. It launched on the 13th of this week, and it launched onto Game Pass. It launched on the Game Pass, and that's how I was able to play it this week. And it currently has a 67 Metacritic, which I think is a little low for what it is, but I can understand some of the criticism I'm seeing about it. Yeah, so I played about 4 hours of it, and I'm somewhat enjoying my time with it. I think the gunplay, the combat, I think is compelling. There's a lot of movement and traversal in the game, a lot of different ways you can get around the map, which I think is really fun. Even in combat, there's a lot of ways to like move around, which I think is really fun and compelling. The comedy is on point, as you would expect from someone with the chops of Rick and Morty and Solar Opposites. I do think it probably gets a little grating, which I think is why the Metacritic is a little lower. And I think I personally can only handle Rick and Morty for a couple hours at a time, not for large stretches, which a 10 to 12 hour game might. Overall, I am enjoying the game. I might see the end of it, just because I think it's, like I said, only a 10 to 12 hour experience. But I think that while the traversal is really fun and the puzzles and the world are kind of fun to explore, the comedy gets a little grating, and the shooting just feels very samey. I have gotten to the point now where I have multiple guns, and it's fun to hear some actors that I love, some comedic actors that I love, kind of yelling at me through the gun, which I thought was a really cool kind of way to make an alien shooter feel alien. But I do think the comedy is a little lacking, and can get old pretty quick. And the shooting just doesn't feel right. But moving around the world feels almost like Doom-like, and I've heard there's some Metroidvania-esque stuff where you unlock stuff and you have to go back to previous levels to explore more. But overall, I think the Metacritic's a little low. But if you're looking for a fun comedy alien shooter on Game Pass that's essentially free, I think it might be worth your time over the holidays. We got to see a little bit of a sneak peek, or at least hear about a little bit of a sneak peek from Starfield. There was a dev diary this week where they talked to the lead quest designer, and we got to see a little bit more about what's a peek behind the curtain to see a little bit more about what to expect when Starfield launches next year. The quest designer talked about how we will be returning to our own solar system. I think some people saw that, saw in some of the promotional content that our solar system's kind of represented. So it'll be interesting to go back to our own solar system. And they also talked about kind of moving, or what is grown in like the random encounter system, which even as recently as like Red Dead Redemption 2, people just kind of run up to you on the road. Something you saw a lot in like Fallout games. So it'll be interesting to see, or it is interesting to see that now random encounters can generate a whole base, and then you'll have to interact with people in that base, and then you'll have to you'll get a new quest, and that quest will generate another base somewhere else, and you'll have to, because you're trying to move person A to place B. So I thought it was really interesting. A little 6 minute kind of peek behind the curtain on what to expect from like the quests and the factions in Starfield. So I thought that was interesting, and I'll have a link down below it in the description. We got to see 30 minutes of Hogwarts Legacy gameplay, which I'm very excited about, having worked on the game. And yeah, we got to see a lot of stuff. There was how we're gonna traverse the map and fly around it, either by broomstick or on a magical beast. They showed off a lot of combat. They showed off how the gear system's gonna work, which I always thought was interesting in the wizarding world, because you're kind of anchored to this one, everyone has like their wand and that's their wand. So, uh, but they showed us like how putting on a different hat might make your magic feel one way or the other. So that I could see as an interesting way to explore this RPG. And lastly, they talked about their what you'll be able to explore and customize within your own room of requirement. I think they've talked about this before in the past, but building it into a herbology station or a combat arena or magical beast, zoology storage place. So all that's really interesting. So I'll link down below. We get to hear from some of the devs and community managers working on Hogwarts Legacy, which was fun. So you can check out that video down below. Moving right along, Jeff Keighley wanted us all to know that some of the stats coming out of the Game Awards last week. The viewership was up 20% year over year, which is great. Having a larger footprint for the games industry is always a good thing. It's up to 103 million views. So I don't know how that's calculated, but it's good to hear that games is having more and more of an outsizing impression and growing, and that's I think always good for the industry. I call it E3 in December, and I think it's kind of delivering on that, getting a lot of viewership, sometimes outside of the actual industry itself, and I think that's a good thing, and so I wanted to call out. Moving right along, remembering back to earlier this year when Embracer Group bought Crystal Dynamics, they didn't get the Tomb Raider IP when they purchased Crystal Dynamics. I think that was by choice. But Crystal Dynamics had been working on a Tomb Raider game for some time, and they found a partner to help them publish that game. And that partner is Amazon, which I was surprised at that Amazon is still in the games business after a couple colossal failures. But yeah, I think it's really interesting that like they were working on a game, they got bought by this company, but that didn't stop them from being able to shop around the game they're currently working on, which I think is good. I know there's been a lot of talk about coalescing of the games industry, which can be viewed as a bad thing. But if they were working on a game while they're being bought, they can find a partner, and we'll still be able to see the next Tomb Raider game. The article I read talked about how photorealistic they can get, and I'm excited to see more and more photorealistic tomb raiding going on. So all of that I think is a good thing, and I'm excited for the next Tomb Raider game coming out with the help of Amazon. Saw a good think piece this week. There's a lot of time to reflect here in the holidays, and the think piece was about battle passes. And I think they've been a lot more contentious lately. I think at the forefront of that is Overwatch 2 and its battle pass, and how it's relatively hard to earn your way through the battle pass, as well as what you get out of it isn't very meaningful. And and I think all of this comes to a head when they had a system that worked. I know battle passes have become kind of in vogue, and they replaced the disdainful, vile loot box system, which I think people didn't really like. But I think Overwatch had figured that out. You can anything you didn't want coming out of a loot box, you could turn into a currency, and then you turn that currency into things you actually do want, as opposed to just getting the same thing over and over again and having it be basically valueless. So I thought they'd figured it out. I know that loot box is a four-letter word, and people don't want to talk about them, and they're terrible, and they're gambling. Um, but I think if you're able to turn your loot boxes into currency, and then turn that currency into things you do want, that makes people feel like they've progressed, which is something that I think Overwatch 2 is missing. But I haven't checked out the new season of Overwatch, so hope maybe they fixed it, but I doubt it. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what you think of battle passes. Are they the next loot box that will kind of fade, or do you think this is the way to do multiplayer gaming and give people something to strive for, which you want in your ongoing live service games? So interested to hear what you think down below in the comments. Steam does a lot of things right, and making hardware is sometimes one of them. Now with the success of the Steam Deck, Gabe Newell wants to keep putting plastic out there, and unfortunately, he's chosen to make a sequel to the Steam controller. As one of the probably 100 people who own a Steam controller and don't use it, even while I'm Steam gaming with a controller, I think this is. I mean, I think they've probably learned stuff from the Steam Deck on how to make controllers and make them how people like them and how people want. But I think they're. I think it's a bad idea, or at least based on the previous one. I would advise against it, but it sounds like that's what they're kind of angling for. So if you want to read all about that, you can down below. This week we got to see a little bit more of the what the collector's edition will look like for Diablo 4 in a I think 1 hour live stream. Uh, the devs of Diablo with Blizzard showed off in a rather awkward way where they just kind of like off screen pulled something out of a box and kind of showed it on the live stream, which is pretty awkward. That's not how you want to be able to present in the collector's edition. Um, but they are making collector's edition. It comes with a candle, which I thought was really cool. It always comes with an art book because it's a Blizzard collector's edition. There's a couple other things. I think you get a map of whatever area you are in Diablo 4. I've already purchased mine for the awesome price of $96.66. You get that 666 in there, and it won't come with a copy of the game, which I thought, as someone who works closely with people in operations, I could see how that would make their life a whole lot easier, not having to worry about ordering a certain number of a specific type on specific platforms, and completely divorcing it from platforms, and also not have to worry about throwing codes in there and making it a little cheaper for people who might just want the content but not the game, I guess. So yeah, I think this is overall a pretty good way. Other than how they showed it off, I think that was a good execution, and definitely looking forward to Diablo 4 next year. In an idea so simple, it makes you wonder why you didn't think of it. Saw a cool game this week that blends rhythm games like Guitar Hero with fighting games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. It's called God of Rock, and I think um, you're just competitively playing a rhythm game against each other. I'm curious how how this gets into the details about like when you miss or when you hit. If it's just whoever has the best reflexes. I don't know that there's a lot of strategy that you would want in kind of a fighting game. And yes, there is strategy in fighting games, other than button mashing like I do because I'm bad at fighting games. But it'd be really interesting to see kind of how they kind of blend those two things together, and it makes a lot of sense. There is a lot of rhythm involved in like fighting games about you pick something, you do a move, and I'm countering it, and how does space work with it? So it's yeah, it's pretty interesting to see what they're doing. So I thought it was a clever idea, and I'm excited to hear more about it. God of Rock was the name of the game, so looking forward to that. So I knew, like I've said a couple times in the past couple weeks, I've had colony sims or city sims kind of on my mind for a while, and I've been really interested in them. And this one that caught my eye this week was called Aquatico, where you're building an underwater civilization colony, and trying to help it thrive. The one thing I'm curious about is if I can add a few crazy religious zealots in there and turn it all into Rapture. That's what I want to do. As a huge Bioshock fan, I want to make my underwater colony go crazy, full of crazy nut jobs wearing bunny masks and killing each other. That's what I want. So, how do I create Rapture in your underwater colony sim game? Let me know. Back at you, devs. But no, I thought it was a really cool, underwater colony sim. I thought was a pretty cool idea. So, let me know what you think of it down below in the comments. And last but not least, as he is no longer Superman or The Witcher, Henry Cavill is looking for some work. And it seems like he might have found something. Him and Amazon are partnering up to bring the Warhammer 40K universe to live action. I don't know if it's going to be a movie or a TV series, but he will both produce it and be be in it. Um, Might be a little confusing, maybe a little bit of the Superman effect of him being in the show. But yeah, since he's got nothing else to do, might as well go to another one of his loves and bring it into the world. I know that he is a big fan of the 40K universe, as I am, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing. I think the promise of bringing that IP to live action has been brought up many times, but no one's been able to deliver on it. So now that we've got a lot of these game IPs coming to the forefront of the culture, it'll be interesting to see what they can do with the Warhammer universe and what a live action Space Marine is like, and whether or not that'll include Imperial Guardsmen who are effectively humans, and how do you have humans and Space Marines kind of existing at the same time? It'll be interesting. So I'm very curious what they do with it. But I know that he was able to bring The Witcher to us all, a very successful fantasy IP, both books and then games, and now into TV. So it'd be interesting to see what they can do with Warhammer without getting too grimdark. Because I don't think people want too much grimdark in their lives right now. But yeah, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this content. If you do, please follow, like, and subscribe to me on YouTube and Twitch so you can see more great content like this. I'll have links down below in the description. Thanks again. I hope you have a super day. I hope you have a super week. And I hope you have a super day. Bye.